Welcome to our fascinating exploration of the animal kingdom. As life itself, I've witnessed countless wonders, the intricate dance of predator and prey, the silent growth of ancient forests, and the ceaseless pulse of existence across millennia. My forms are many, my expressions varied, yet all are bound by the fundamental drive to persist, to continue the great narrative of evolution. From the smallest microbe to the grandest whale, this urge to live is a powerful, almost defining characteristic of what it means to be an animate being on this vibrant, ever-changing planet. Yet, within this tapestry of tenacious vitality, there are threads that seem to run counter to this primary directive. These are instances of self-destruction, moments where the will to live appears to falter, or is perhaps overridden by other, more complex imperatives. Today, we uncover a surprising and somber topic: animals that exhibit suicidal behaviors. It is a subject fraught with misunderstanding, often clouded by human interpretations and projections, yet it demands our careful, compassionate observation to truly comprehend the forces at play. We shall journey together into these shadowed corners of the natural world, not to sensationalize, but to understand. We will examine the evidence, explore the scientific explanations, and ponder the profound questions these behaviors raise about the very nature of consciousness, instinct, and survival. It is a journey that challenges our assumptions and deepens our appreciation for the multifaceted and often enigmatic lives that share this earth with us, each a unique expression of my ongoing story, The image of the lemming, a small, unassuming rodent of the Arctic tundra, is perhaps one of the most enduring yet tragically misrepresented in the popular consciousness regarding animal self-destruction. For decades, the narrative has persisted. Hordes of these creatures, driven by an inexplicable, almost lemming-like urge, marching blindly towards cliffs to plunge en masse into the unforgiving sea below. This dramatic portrayal, however, owes more to cinematic license than to observed natural behavior, a distortion that has unfortunately overshadowed the true and equally fascinating story of these hardy animals. The origins of this widespread myth can be traced in large part to a 1958 Disney production, White Wilderness. In a sequence that has since become infamous, the filmmakers, seeking to capture a spectacular moment, reportedly staged the mass drowning. They are said to have imported lemmings to an area not native to them and then herded them over a cliff into a river, not the sea, to create the desired visual. This manipulation, though perhaps intended for dramatic effect, cemented a falsehood in the public mind that has proven remarkably difficult to dispel, even with decades of scientific clarification. In reality, lemmings do not possess a collective death wish. What they do exhibit are remarkable population cycles, booming in numbers when conditions are favorable, abundant food, mild weather, and then experiencing sharp declines. During these peak population periods, resources become scarce and the pressure to find new territories intensifies. This leads to large-scale dispersals or migrations as individuals and groups set out in search of sustenance and space, a natural and necessary response to overcrowding and dwindling supplies in their current habitat. These migrations can be vast and arduous undertakings. Lemmings are surprisingly capable swimmers, and they will readily cross bodies of water, such as rivers or lakes, that lie in their path. However, their navigational abilities and endurance have limits. When faced with a large expanse of water, like a fjord or an arm of the ocean, their instinct to press onward can lead them into perilous situations. They may misjudge the distance or the strength of the currents, attempting to cross waters that are simply too wide or too turbulent for their small frames to conquer. It is in these circumstances that accidental drownings can occur, sometimes involving significant numbers of individuals. This is not a deliberate act of self-annihilation, but rather a tragic consequence of their migratory instinct colliding with an insurmountable obstacle. The appearance of a mass plunge from a cliff is typically an illusion. More often, they might tumble down steep banks while trying to access water or be swept away by strong currents after entering a river that unexpectedly widens or flows into a larger, more dangerous body of water. Furthermore, the sheer density of lemmings during these peak population events means that any accidental death can appear magnified. If a few individuals at the front of a moving group misstep or fall into water, the pressure from the countless others pressing from behind can inadvertently push more over the edge. This is not a conscious decision by the group, but a physical consequence of their numbers and the momentum of their collective movement in a desperate search for new feeding grounds. The stress of these migrations, coupled with food scarcity and increased predation, also contributes to their population decline. They're a crucial part of the Arctic food web, and their numbers directly impact the survival of predators like Arctic foxes, snowy owls and stoats. When lemming populations crash, these predators also face hardship, highlighting the interconnectedness of this seemingly harsh yet delicately balanced ecosystem. It's a cycle of boom and bust, driven by environmental factors and ecological pressures, not by a morbid compulsion. Understanding the lemmings' true story requires us to look beyond the sensationalized myth and appreciate the complex interplay of biology, behavior, and environment. Their mass movements are not a march towards death, but a desperate gamble for life, a testament to their resilience and their adaptation to an environment where resources can be unpredictably abundant or cruelly scarce. It is a story of survival, not of suicide, played out on the vast windswept stage of the northern wilderness. The persistence of the lemming myth serves as a cautionary tale about how easily misinformation can take root, especially when it presents a dramatic and easily digestible narrative. It underscores the importance of critical thinking and seeking out scientifically grounded explanations for the behaviors we observe in the natural world. For the lemming, the reality is far more nuanced, a poignant example of the struggle for existence that defines so much of life on Earth. So when we speak of lemmings, let us remember them not as mindless followers plunging to their doom, but as tenacious survivors, navigating a challenging world with instincts honed by millennia of evolution. Their story is one of adaptation and the relentless drive to find new opportunities even when faced with seemingly insurmountable odds. It is a narrative of life's inherent push rather than a surrender to an imagined fatalistic call. The sight of a whale, a magnificent leviathan of the deep, stranded helplessly on a beach, is a profoundly sorrowful and perplexing spectacle. These events, known as mass strandings, where groups of whales or dolphins beach themselves, have puzzled and distressed humanity for centuries. They represent a stark deviation from the animal's natural marine existence, raising urgent questions about why these intelligent ocean-dwelling creatures would find themselves in such a fatal predicament, far from the life-sustaining embrace of the sea. Several theories have been proposed to explain these tragic occurrences, and it is likely that no single cause is responsible for all instances. One prominent factor often considered is disorientation. Whales, particularly toothed whales, like pilot whales and sperm whales, navigate using sophisticated echolocation, emitting sounds and interpreting the returning echoes to map their surroundings. In certain coastal geographies, such as gently sloping sandy beaches or complex shallow bays, these sonar signals can become confused, leading the animals astray into dangerously shallow waters from which they cannot easily escape. Human activity, too, is increasingly implicated as a potential contributor. The proliferation of loud underwater noise from shipping, seismic surveys for oil and gas exploration, and military sonar operations can interfere with whales' communication and navigation. Some research suggests that intense sonar in particular may cause whales to panic, ascend too quickly, leading to decompression sickness, akin to the bends in human divers, or drive them into unfamiliar and hazardous coastal areas in an attempt to flee the distressing sounds. The strong social bonds observed in many whale species, especially Odontocete like pilot whales and dolphins, can also play a critical role in mass strandings. If a dominant individual or a significant member of the pod becomes ill, injured, or disoriented and heads towards shore, the others may loyally follow, even into life-threatening shallows. This deep-seated social cohesion, normally a strength for survival in the open ocean, can tragically become a catalyst for collective demise in these specific unfortunate circumstances. Illness or injury within the pod is another significant consideration. Parasitic infections affecting the brain or inner ear, viral diseases, or injuries from ship strikes or entanglement in fishing gear can impair a whale's ability to navigate or maintain its equilibrium. A single debilitated animal might inadvertently lead its entire group into peril. Post-mortem examinations of stranded whales often reveal underlying health issues, lending credence to this theory as a contributing, if not primary, cause for some events. Furthermore, unusual environmental conditions can play a part. Sudden changes in water temperature, harmful algal blooms producing neurotoxins, or extreme weather events like hurricanes can disorient marine mammals or force them into unfamiliar coastal waters. The Earth's magnetic fields, which some scientists believe whales use for long-distance navigation, can also experience anomalies, potentially leading pods off their established migratory routes and into danger zones along coastlines they would normally avoid. It is crucial to distinguish these events from any notion of intentional collective suicide in the human sense. There is no scientific evidence to suggest that whales consciously decide to end their lives by beaching. Instead, strandings are more accurately viewed as tragic accidents, the result of a confluence of factors: environmental, physiological, social, and increasingly anthropogenic, that overwhelm the animal's natural ability to navigate and survive in their marine habitat. The response to such events often involves heroic efforts by humans to rescue and refloat the stranded animals, a testament to our empathy for these creatures. However, the success rate can be limited, especially for larger whales or when large numbers are involved. Understanding the multifaceted causes of these strandings is therefore paramount, not only to aid in rescue efforts, but, more importantly, to inform conservation strategies aimed at mitigating the human-induced pressures that may be exacerbating the problem. The mystery of mass whale strandings continues to be an active area of research. Scientists meticulously collect data from each event, studying the animal's physiology, the environmental conditions, and any potential human activities in the vicinity. Each stranding, while a tragedy, offers an opportunity to learn more about these enigmatic giants of the ocean and the complex challenges they face in a world increasingly shaped by human influence. Ultimately, the sight of stranded whales serves as a stark reminder of their vulnerability and the delicate balance of their marine existence. It compels us to reflect on our own impact on the oceans and to strive for a greater understanding of these magnificent beings, so that we might better protect them from the myriad threats, both natural and human-made, that can lead to such devastating outcomes on shores around the world. Within the intricate societies of ants, the individual often exists for the good of the whole. This principle of eusociality, where cooperation and division of labor reach extraordinary levels, sometimes manifests in behaviors that, from an individual's perspective, are unequivocally self-destructive. Yet from the colony's viewpoint, these acts represent the ultimate form of altruism, a sacrifice made to ensure the survival and prosperity of the collective, the superorganism to which each ant belongs. One of the most dramatic examples of such self-sacrifice can be observed in certain species of carpenter ants found in Southeast Asia, notably often referred to as the exploding ant. These worker ants possess greatly enlarged mandibular glands that run the entire length of their bodies. These glands are filled with a sticky, toxic, glue-like substance. When the colony is threatened, particularly by invading rival ants or other predators, these specialized soldier ants engage in a remarkable defense mechanism. In a desperate final act, the ant will violently contract its abdominal muscles, deliberately rupturing its own body wall. This rupture causes the contents of its mandibular glands to burst forth, spraying the sticky, often corrosive secretion over the nearby enemies. The ant itself perishes in this explosive act, but the chemical cocktail can entangle, incapacitate, or even kill several assailants, thereby helping to repel the attack and protect the nest, its queen, and its developing brood. This is not suicide in the human sense of despair, but a programmed, adaptive defense. This phenomenon, termed autothysis or self-explosion, is a clear instance where an individual worker ant forgoes its own survival for the benefit of its kin. Since worker ants are typically sterile and share a high degree of genetic relatedness with their sisters and the future reproductive individuals of the colony, this ultimate sacrifice can be understood through the lens of kin selection. By dying to protect the colony, the exploding ant ensures the propagation of the genes it shares with its relatives. Another chilling yet fascinating example of ant behavior that leads to individual demise involves parasitic manipulation. The fungus, often called the zombie ant fungus, infects carpenter ants foraging in tropical forests. Once infected, the fungus takes control of the ant's behavior, compelling it to leave its colony and climb to a specific height on the stem of a plant, usually on the underside of a leaf, in a location with ideal temperature and humidity for fungal growth. The manipulated ant then clamps its mandibles onto the plant in a death grip, immobilizing itself. Shortly thereafter, the fungus kills the ant and a fruiting body erupts from the ant's head, releasing spores to infect other unsuspecting ants below. While the ant's actions are a direct result of parasitic control rather than a voluntary act of sacrifice for its colony, it highlights how an individual's life can be subverted and ultimately terminated by external biological forces, leading to a form of programmed death that benefits the parasite. Beyond these dramatic examples, more subtle forms of self-endangerment for the colony's benefit are common. Forager ants routinely venture into dangerous territories, facing high risks of predation to secure food for their nestmates. Guard ants will staunchly defend the nest entrance against much larger intruders, often to their own detriment. These are not acts of despair, but rather expressions of an ingrained behavioral program that prioritizes the colony's welfare above all else. The social structure of an ant colony, with its sterile worker castes, means that individual survival is secondary to the survival and reproduction of the queen and, by extension, the entire genetic lineage. This allows for the evolution of such extreme altruistic behaviors as the individual worker's genetic legacy is primarily passed on through the success of its reproductive relatives, not through its own direct offspring. These instances challenge our anthropocentric definitions of self-preservation. For an ant, the self may be more accurately perceived as the colony. Therefore, an act that ensures the colony's continuation, even at the cost of one ant's life, is, in an evolutionary sense, a successful strategy. It is a stark reminder that the rules governing life and death can be vastly different across the diverse spectrum of living forms. Understanding these behaviors requires us to set aside human emotional frameworks and instead consider the cold, hard calculus of natural selection acting at the level of the gene or the colony. The ant that explodes or the forager that braves a spider's web is not contemplating its own mortality in a way we might. It is executing a biological imperative, a role it was born to play within its highly organized society for the greater good of its extended family. In the intricate and often brutal world of spiders, the drive to reproduce and ensure the survival of offspring can lead to behaviors that appear to our eyes as the ultimate act of self-sacrifice. Among certain species, the drama of life and death unfolds in a particularly intimate way, with one partner or even a parent becoming a vital resource for the next generation, quite literally giving their all for the continuation of their lineage. This is not suicide born of despair, but a programmed biological imperative. One of the most striking examples is sexual cannibalism, where the female spider consumes the male before, during, or after mating. While this may seem a grim fate for the male in some species, it appears to be a strategy that can, paradoxically, enhance his reproductive success. For instance, in the Australian redback spider, males actively assist in their own consumption by somersaulting and positioning their abdomens directly onto the female's fangs. Research suggests that males who are cannibalized in this manner often achieve longer copulation times and fertilize more of the female's eggs compared to males who escape. Furthermore, a well-fed female is likely to produce more and healthier offspring. Thus, by becoming a meal, the male redback spider may be making a significant paternal investment, ensuring his genes are passed on more effectively, even though it costs him his life. His sacrifice directly fuels the development of his own progeny. Beyond sexual cannibalism, an even more profound form of self-sacrifice is matrophagy, or mother-eating, observed in species like the social spider or some species of ericid spiders. In these cases, the mother spider, after her spiderlings have hatched and undergone their first few molts, actively allows her own offspring to consume her. She essentially becomes their first substantial meal, providing them with a crucial nutritional boost at a vulnerable stage in their development. This maternal devotion is not a passive surrender. The mother may even perform behaviors that seem to facilitate her own consumption, perhaps by becoming more lethargic or by secreting fluids that attract her young. The spiderlings will swarm over her, gradually consuming her body over several days. This act dramatically increases the young spider's chances of survival, providing them with the resources needed for growth and dispersal, especially in environments where their first independent meals might be difficult to find. From an evolutionary perspective, this ultimate maternal sacrifice makes sense if it significantly boosts the survival and future reproductive success of her offspring. The mother has already invested heavily in producing and guarding her eggs. By offering her own body, she provides a final, concentrated package of nutrients, ensuring that her genetic legacy, embodied in her young, has the best possible start in life. Her individual life ends, but her contribution to the next generation is maximized. This is not an act driven by emotion as we understand it, but by deeply ingrained instinctual programs shaped by natural selection. The fitness of an individual in evolutionary terms is measured by its success in passing on its genes. For these mother spiders, becoming a meal for their offspring is the most effective way to achieve that ultimate biological goal, once their own direct reproductive potential has been largely fulfilled with the laying of their eggs. The spiderlings that benefit from matrophagy tend to be larger, more robust, and have higher survival rates than those who do not receive this nutritional gift. This gives them a competitive edge as they venture out to establish their own webs and eventually reproduce, carrying forward the genes that predispose future mothers to make the same sacrifice. It is a cycle of life and death, where the end of one generation directly nourishes the beginning of the next. Such behaviors challenge our human-centered notions of parental care and self-preservation. In the spider's world, where life is often short and perilous, these extreme strategies have evolved because they work. They ensure the continuation of the species in highly competitive environments. It is a stark illustration of how the demands of reproduction can shape behavior in the most profound and seemingly self-destructive ways. Observing these acts forces us to confront the raw, unsentimental nature of evolution. The individual spider's life is but a temporary vessel for its genes. If sacrificing that vessel means those genes are more likely to persist and replicate, then such a sacrifice, however gruesome it may appear to us, becomes an adaptive trait, favored and perpetuated through time. It is a testament to the diverse and sometimes startling strategies that life has sculpted to ensure continuity. In the quiet, picturesque landscape of West Dunbartonshire, Scotland, stands Overtoun Bridge, an ornate Victorian structure arching gracefully over a deep ravine. While aesthetically pleasing, this bridge has gained a more sombre and unsettling reputation over the decades, becoming known as a place where an unusually high number of dogs have reportedly leapt or fallen to their serious injury or death in the 50-foot drop below. This phenomenon has understandably captured public imagination and sparked numerous theories ranging from the mundane to the paranormal. The stories surrounding Overtoun Bridge are indeed perplexing. Reports suggest that dozens of dogs, often long-nosed breeds like Labradors, Collies and Golden Retrievers, have seemingly without warning bounded over the bridge's parapet walls. Many of these incidents have occurred at the same two spots on one side of the bridge. Some dogs have even survived the fall, only to attempt the same leap again when brought back to the location, a detail that adds to the profound mystery and distress of their owners. Naturally, such inexplicable behavior has led to a wide array of speculative explanations. Local folklore and paranormal enthusiasts have suggested that the bridge, or the surrounding Overtoun estate, is haunted, perhaps by the spirit of the White Lady of Overtoun, or that some other supernatural influence is compelling the dogs to jump. While these theories provide a narrative for the unexplained, they lack empirical evidence and fall outside the realm of scientific investigation, which seeks more tangible causes. More scientific inquiries have focused on sensory stimuli that might be luring or disorienting the dogs. One prominent theory, investigated by animal behavior specialists, points to the presence of mink in the undergrowth of the ravine below the bridge. Mink secrete a potent musky scent from their anal glands, which could be overwhelmingly attractive or stimulating to dogs, particularly those with keen senses of smell. The theory posits that dogs catching this intense scent might be impulsively driven to investigate, not realizing the danger posed by the sheer drop. The structure of the bridge itself might also play a role. The solid granite parapet walls, which gradually increase in height towards the center of the bridge, could obscure the true scale of the drop from a dog's perspective. A dog, particularly one excited by a scent or a sound, might leap onto the wall, expecting to find solid ground on the other side, only to be met with a fatal void. The specific acoustics of the ravine could also carry sounds from below in a way that piques canine curiosity. Furthermore, the visual perception of dogs differs from that of humans. It has been suggested that the uniform color and texture of the granite, combined with the way light falls in the ravine, might create an optical illusion for dogs, making the drop less apparent. Some have speculated that certain dogs might be more susceptible to such misperceptions, though this is difficult to verify definitively. The consistency of the jump spots could lend credence to a localized sensory cue or perceptual anomaly. It is crucial to state that there is no evidence to suggest these dogs are committing suicide in the human sense of understanding and intending self-destruction due to emotional distress. Such complex ideation is not something we can attribute to dogs with our current understanding of canine cognition. Instead, their actions are more likely the result of a powerful instinctual response to a compelling stimulus, a misjudgment of their environment, or a tragic accident. The Overtoun Bridge case remains an intriguing puzzle, a confluence of environmental factors, animal behavior, and perhaps unfortunate coincidence. Animal behavior experts, local authorities, and concerned individuals have sought to understand and mitigate the risk. Warning signs have been erected, and dog owners are advised to keep their pets on leads when crossing. Yet the precise combination of factors that leads to these tragic events is still debated and not fully understood. This specific and localized phenomenon underscores the complexities of animal behavior and the challenges we face in interpreting actions that seem to defy logical explanation from a human perspective. It reminds us that animals perceive and interact with the world through senses and instincts that are often very different from our own, leading them into situations that we might easily avoid, but which for them become perilous traps. While the mystery of Overtone Bridge may never be completely solved to everyone's satisfaction, it serves as a poignant example of how unique environmental circumstances can intersect with innate animal behaviors to produce startling and tragic outcomes. It encourages a deeper investigation into the sensory worlds of other species and a more cautious approach to assuming the motivations behind their actions, especially when they appear so self-destructive. Our journey through these instances of seemingly self-destructive animal behavior reveals a world far more intricate and governed by forces often beyond our immediate comprehension. From the lemming's misunderstood migration to the ant's ultimate sacrifice and the whale's tragic stranding to the spider's maternal offering, each story challenges our anthropocentric views. While these behaviors may seem perplexing, they remind us of the complex and often mysterious nature of the animal world, where the drive to survive and reproduce manifests in an astonishing diversity of strategies. These are not tales of despair in the human sense, but rather profound expressions of evolutionary pressures, instinctual commands, parasitic manipulations, or tragic miscalculations. They speak of altruism taken to its extreme for the benefit of kin, of navigational systems overwhelmed, or of sensory worlds so rich they can lead to fatal allure. As life, I see these not as failures, but as different facets of the relentless struggle and adaptation that characterize existence on this planet, each a note in the grand, complex symphony of survival. Understanding these phenomena requires us to look deeper, to question our assumptions, and to appreciate the sheer variety of ways life finds to persist, sometimes through paths that appear, from our vantage point, to be paths to ruin. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more intriguing insights into the natural world. Continue to explore, to question, and to marvel at the endless wonders that unfold around us every moment.